And welcome to our April edition of Sports Highlights. For more, log on to nnpstv.com, our interview show since February of 1992. Our program airs on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7, weekends at 9 a.m. on Cox Cable 47 517, nnpstv.com, archived on YouTube, at Greg Bick on Twitter. It's a pleasure to have some students in the studio once again for our April show. Let's welcome Jaden Kesey and Chauncey Jenkins from Menchville High School. Good to see you.
You too.
How did you get involved in basketball?
I was always around the game growing up with my mom playing in college, and I kind of grew up around it. My family was always real involved in it, so I've been playing it since I was real young, whether it be like rec league here, and then got involved with Menchville and been playing.
What college did your mom go to?
My mom went to CNU.
How about you? How did you get involved in basketball?
Both of my parents played in high school, so I just wanted to carry that on. They pretty much instilled it in me when I was young. I started playing when I was like 5 years old. And just been playing since.
Talk about positions. How do you figure out what position? Would you see a guy like Kevin Durant who can play, who can stretch the floor? You see a lot of big men who can shoot from the outside. Talk about how did you pick your position?
I looked at what skills I had and what I was good at doing on the court and my abilities, what I was able to do, and kind of fit it around what position I played.
I try to use my height to my advantage. I create a lot of mismatches. Like, since I'm a little taller, I can create mismatches at the point guard, And then if I have a big on me, I'm a little quicker, so I just try to use that.
Very good. Of course, we televised your game earlier this season. That was very nice against Woodside. Talk about what it was like to have your game on TV.
It was something I really haven't been able to experience earlier in my career playing, so it's always an honor being able to play on TV. I think it's real cool.
It was definitely the type of atmosphere you want to play in. Like, it was a pretty packed game, a lot of people in there, You just had to put on a show.
It was really exciting, absolutely. Talking to Chauncey Jenkins, Jaden Kesey, they're both Menchville basketball players for the Monarchs. Of course, they're both coming back next year, class of 2020. You played for the late Ben Moore. Talk about that experience.
It was a great experience, especially my freshman year. He was a coach that really cared about his players, and he tried to do whatever he could to benefit me and what I needed to do on the court. So it was a great experience, especially as a younger guy on varsity. So he definitely helped me in ways that I can't even explain. So he was a great coach to me.
I didn't play for him for that long, but when I did, he impacted me in a big way. He always taught players to respect the game, play the game the right way.
All right, let's fast forward to Lamont Struthers. What's it like playing for him?
I've been playing with him since I was in 6th grade, so he's definitely a great coach. He's taught me almost everything I know about the game, so I owe a lot to him.
Obviously, he had a pro career and stuff, so I just try to get as much knowledge from him as possible. I trust him because I know he knows what he's talking about.
Absolutely. He played for CNU as well. We're talking to Chauncey Jenkins, Jaden Kesey. Talk about some of your opponents this year. Of course, Phoebus was one of the top ones in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Phoebus was real good. They were a tough opponent. They were real athletic and big. But I think everybody in the district is pretty good. If you're not playing your best, you can lose any game.
And Phoebus was definitely one of the toughest opponents. They were a pretty scrappy team. It's tough to keep off the boards. Also, Kegatan, they had a pretty young team, and they were good too. So they gave us a fight too.
A lot of teams are really good, but you look outside the box. Since you've been at Menchville, what are some of the memorable games you played against?
Definitely this year playing against Norview, being my first regional game, I had a great time playing in that. So that's definitely one of my most memorable games.
I say Norview too, just because next year that's going to be one we want to get back.
Right. When you talk about the summertime, we're not too far away from graduation. Do you like to have a job to make money, or rather just focus on summer school and basketball?
For me, I just focus on basketball because that's my main priority right now. So I do what's best in my ability to try and make myself better on the court.
I had a job last year, but it got pretty hectic, trying to balance the two. So I think this this year I'm going to just try to focus on basketball.
What about hobbies away from basketball? I mean, what are have you ever played any other sports, or talk about some of your hobbies?
I used to play football back when I was younger, and that's definitely helped with my athletic abilities. But for other hobbies, I try and just help out around my neighborhood and community, just helping out.
I used to play football too, but I stopped. So, other hobbies, I play the game, stuff like that.
Very good. Talk about some of your teammates you played with over the years. Any special skills or talent? I know, of course, the coach has his son on the team as well.
Yeah, I mean, all of my teammates have been great, whether it be Alan and our seniors this year, Isaiah and Amar. They're both real good talents. I've had a great time playing with them for the past few years.
Yeah, we got a lot of depth. The whole team is pretty talented. They just make it easier for us to play.
We talked about academics, athletics, and activities, but talk about some of your favorite classes and teachers and subjects.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually take psychology this year, and I'm really into that. It's really interesting to me, so I enjoy taking that class.
I think physics is one of my more favorite classes just because it's a challenge. It's probably like the hardest class I ever took, so yeah.
Talk about some of the assistant coaches on the team.
Well, my dad actually helps coach. He's an assistant coach. I mean, all the assistant coaches are real supportive, and they've helped me with things that I've needed.
Yeah, Coach Mike, he helps us a lot. Coach Neesmith cleans up the locker room, stuff like that. It's just real supportive, makes it easier for us.
We're talking to Chauncey Jenkins and Jaden Kesey, both juniors on the Menchville varsity basketball team. We televised their game earlier against Woodside. It was a lot of fun. We did several basketball games this year in the first quarter of 2019. Our April show, hope everybody's having a wonderful spring finally in Hampton Roads. You talk about a lot of players at the high school, college, and pro level get criticized for not playing defense. Talk about how important defense is on your team.
Defense is probably the most important thing because, I mean, you can't play offense unless you stop somebody from scoring. So you got to play defense to win games because that's what Coach Struthers preached a lot this year is that we got to play defense on one end if we want to go play offense on the other end.
Yeah, we take defense very seriously. Coach Struthers stresses that on us a lot. If we don't play defense, we'll come out the game. So we make sure we do that.
When you're watching a game on TV, do you get more inspired by the one-on-one play? Or do you see a lot of people shooting the outside shot or going for the three, and then, of course, the slam dunk? How important is that, or is it not important at all?
I think having the individual skill is extremely important to the game, but, I mean, I think the teamwork and team effort is just as important to the game if you want to win basketball games.
Yeah, the individual skill work is important, but just like you said, without a team, you can't win or you can't do it by yourself. So.
Yep, I've always liked the 8-minute quarters. They were around when I was in high school too, but no shot clock. Your thoughts, the pros and cons of a shot clock?
I mean, I think a shot clock can be really beneficial to us because, I mean, if we want to play on the next level, that's definitely something we're going to have to be accustomed to when we go play in college.
Yeah, it'd just be prepping us for the next level, making us more comfortable, having to get up shots quicker, get into the offense quicker, things like that.
All right, a lot of things going during the game, but how do you control your emotions, especially when you see a referee call that you don't agree with? Because there are 3 officials out there.
You just got to keep your head in the game. You can't worry too much about the officials. You kind of just got to keep playing through that because, I mean, any given night there can be some bad refs there every game, but, I mean, you just got to keep pushing through it so you can win.
Yeah, it gets hard sometimes, but you just got to keep your head. You can't try to blame the game on them. You just got to play your game and just keep doing what you do.
Both of y'all played, JV at least, experienced it. Varsity, you can play at the 9th grade level. Talk about that. How important was it to play at the 9th grade level?
It was very important to me because the game is so much different coming from JV to varsity. Varsity, the game's a lot faster. You got to make decisions quicker. So being able to play at that level at that younger age has been very beneficial to me. It's really taught me a lot.
Yeah, the transition definitely wasn't easy. You're playing against bigger, stronger, faster guys. So it takes a while to get accustomed, but it benefits you.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, I have a ton of fun playing.
Of course, yeah, I have fun every day.
Very good. Thanks for your patience, of course. Thank you for doing a great job of the interview, and, of course, best of luck during the offseason as well.
Thank
that was Jaden Kesey and Chauncey Jenkins, both juniors on the Menchville Monarchs basketball team. Good luck to them, and stay tuned for our next segment on Sports Highlights. back to our April edition of Sports Highlights. At Craig Binkle on Twitter. Glad you're with us for our program since February of '92. And of course, hope you enjoyed our first two guests, and Jaden Kesey and Chauncey Jenkins from Menchville High School's basketball team. Let's welcome John Velke and Staley Hampton. They are Warwick High School wrestlers. We televised their match earlier this year. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
John, tell us about how did you get involved in wrestling?
So freshman year when I went to school at Warwick, I went to one of those like club fairs, and I was really out of shape. And my parents were pushing me to do a sport, just choose a sport to get in shape. And I signed up for a bunch. I signed up for like tennis, football, wrestling, and the only coach that called me back was actually Coach White. So it was kind of it happened like that, but I'm really glad that it did.
Well, actually, I started off in rec league because my mom forced me to stop playing AAU basketball, so I started wrestling.
Is it easy just to focus on one sport and then do academics and not overload yourself?
It can be. I think in terms of focusing on a single sport, wrestling is kind of a good sport to focus in on. In terms of academics, Coach White and Coach Norton, they do a really, really good job of supporting the wrestlers academically. We have study hall before practices every day during the season. And so that helps a little bit more because wrestling tires you out, but having that academic support is really great.
Yeah, I think academics always comes first, so I think it's always important I like to do one sport. That's another reason I'm playing football. I don't want my GPA to slip.
And you said you feel a lot better since you haven't played football.
Yeah.
Well, tell about that.
I think it's just because you take so many hits to the head when you're playing football. In wrestling, it's like your head's not really hitting the mat unless you fall wrong.
Yeah. But wrestling, sometimes you can have cauliflower ear, too.
Yeah, I've got a little bit actually going on right here in my earlobe. But headgear helps with that. It's standard. Just be safe about being cautious.
Does that affect your hearing sometimes?
I've heard that it can. Mine personally doesn't because it's just on my earlobe. And I know a teammate who's actually had it a lot worse up here on the top of his ear, but it doesn't from that often, from what I understand.
Actually, they've enforced that now we have to wear headgear during practice, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal anymore.
Right. Well, talk about this year's experience on the wrestling team. How many years have you wrestled varsity?
So that's kind of a gray area because Coach White does a really good job of taking you guys and pushing them into difficult situations. But I would say like 3 years I've done varsity. I've wrestled for 4 years total. This season was rocky for me. I broke my hand about halfway through, so it was a little bit off for me, but it's been a good experience overall.
I've wrestled, this is my second varsity year. And next year I just want to come back and do better because I fell short at regionals.
It almost seemed like wrestling has really gotten really popular at the school. I mean, I know people always talk about football and basketball, but it seems like more kids are gravitating to those type of sports.
Yeah, I think the big thing is how quickly the team has gone from being nearly dead to being a really good team. When I started my freshman year, it was also, I believe, Coach White's first year, and the team was near dead. The Daily Press did a piece on it back that year. And in the span of 2-3 years, we're the best team in the district, and we've done a lot of really good things since then. So I think because it was so quick, and because that gets, that creates buzz, I think that's kind of why people started to gravitate towards it more.
Yeah, what he said, and the atmosphere in wrestling is different than any other sport because in football, it doesn't really seem like the coaches care about you as much as they do in wrestling.
Right, we're talking to John Velke and Staley Hampton, both Warwick High School wrestlers. One is a senior, one is a sophomore. And of course, what are your plans after this year?
So I'm looking to go to college, likely at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. They have a club team. I'm probably going to wrestle for them, and I'm going to study chemical engineering. My plans right now.
Well, I don't really know what I want to study, but I know I want to wrestle in college for sure.
Right, and you talk about wrestling and talk about some of your memorable matches this year.
So this year, actually, the weekend we were at the Virginia Duels over in Hampton, I got the chance to wrestle the #1 high school wrestler in my weight class in the country. And that was definitely interesting. I didn't win, but it was interesting. It was neat to go up against someone who's, ranked and nationally recognized. And that was a big one for me. I think as a team, we love the district matches, but we put ourselves in a lot of situations where we wrestle teams that we normally wouldn't see. We try and go to a lot of tournaments. And so I think that creates a lot of memorable moments because we see opponents that, in our minds are really, really good. They're from out of the area. They are, well established, and we do well against them a lot of the time. So I think that creates a lot of good memories.
My most memorable match was definitely my last match in regionals. I should have won it, but I lost in the third overtime, I think it was, right?
Yeah, it was third overtime.
Yeah.
You mentioned the duels. A lot of great college players are the duels, but of course, a lot of the kids that watch TV are influenced by pro wrestling. Does that make an effect on you, or you prefer just fundamental college wrestling?
Pro wrestling is really showy, and a lot of people will get like upset if you compare the two. I think if you had a student or an athlete who wanted to wrestle and they only had knowledge of the WWE, it wouldn't really carry over. They're very different things. So I think most of the people that are influenced by it kind of lose that if they do get into actual college, high school wrestling, things like that.
I mean, you really can't compare them because a lot of people come out and they're like, I thought this was gonna be like WWE, but it's not because you're not hitting each other and stuff and slamming each other. You're just taking each other down.
Yeah, wrestling is a wonderful sport, been around for centuries. And of course, you talk about the shape of being in wrestling as far as proper nutrition, water. Talk about what it goes into meeting your weight.
So two things, the high school league, the Virginia High School League, they do a really good job of moderating how athletes lose weight. They only let you lose a certain percentage of your body weight per week, and they check that. I mean, they keep an eye on it, especially when you weigh in at tournaments and things like that. But then on top of that, proper nutrition and things like that, you just have to do it. There's no real way around it. Even if you're able to make weight or you have a good buffer between your current weight and your weight class, you just have to eat right because that's energy that you need to wrestle. And if you eat unhealthy foods, it just makes things harder regardless of making weight.
You have to make up more. You have to process more too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with that you're forced to eat healthier because a wrestling match is like nothing else. You're basically like sprinting for like 6 minutes straight, nonstop.
Talk about the scoring system as far as getting to a certain amount of points. How does that all work?
So taking somebody down when you're both standing up in neutral is 2 points. Standing up when you've been taken down, getting back to neutral is 1 point. Pinning somebody wins the match automatically. Near pinning somebody, so that's holding someone near both of their shoulders on the mat, is 3 points. And then back points are similar to a near pin, but it's once your shoulders break the plane of 90 degrees with the mat, that's a 5 count. And if it's below 5, you get 2 points. If it's at 5, you get 3 points.
Every sport's got its own type of attire. Talk about the wrestling attire.
It's really just a singlet, headgear, and shoes, and the school provides the singlet and the headgear. Shoes are kind of the spot where you get to choose what you wear, so that's kind of attire for it.
Is it comfortable?
I wouldn't wear it around my house, but it's not uncomfortable.
Right. Well, you talk about how you stay in shape. How do you stay in shape?
Honestly, there's really no way to stay in shape for a wrestling match. You just got to mostly it's just mental. Like you got to come in mentally prepared.
Do you like to walk, run,
I
swim?
run. Yeah, running, sprinting for like long distances is probably the best way to get in shape for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We sometimes do drills where we sprint just for 6 minutes straight just to see if we can keep up with the pace of a match. It's a lot of anaerobic cardio, so sprints and things like that are really good. Plus weightlifting so you can stay strong, things like that.
There's nothing like a high-energy wrestling match when the fans are really behind it, right?
Yeah.
I remember there was one kid whose dad brought out a poster when his son got a surgery. That was kind of funny to see on TV.
Yeah. Are you talking about our match?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his 100th win, and he's the first wrestler in Warwick history to get 100 wins. And Henry Jordan even wrestled and he didn't hit 100,
yeah.
So it was a big deal for sure.
And Henry Jordan, of course, he played for the Packers too. You talk about wrestling. Are you happy when you're at wrestling? Is it a way to like escape from the day-to-day minutia of school?
Nah, I normally honestly just do it because I like beating up on people.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, very good. We'll end it on that note. All right, so I want to thank John Velke and Staley Hampton, and quick one-word piece of advice for anybody that wants to wrestle at any age.
It's a lot of perseverance. You really got to be ready to push through a lot of hard things for sure.
You just got to stay dedicated because that first year is always tough. But then the second year you come back and you're like, oh, shoot, I'm actually really good.
Yeah, I think the two words are desire and sustain. Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. All the best in your academic career at Warwick High School. Two great wrestlers at Warwick, John Velke, Staley Hampton. Sports Highlights will continue with Randy Stanaway after these messages.
Fusion Fitness with Alexis. Tune in weekdays 6:30 a.m., Mondays 7:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m., and 7:30 p.m.
And welcome back to our final segment for our April 2019 edition, Sports Highlights, Sports Scene. Greg Pickaveris, glad you're with us. Good to see you. As always, thank you for being part of the show as our great fans that watch this program. It's a pleasure now to talk to Randy Stanaway, national sit-down champion of arm wrestling. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
You've been wrestling for several decades as far as arm wrestling. Talk about it.
Yes, sir. I've been arm wrestling for 44 years. I watched my brother do it back in the 70s, early 70s, and said I could do this. So in 1975, I got in my first arm wrestling tournament and loved it ever since.
You know, people always say you don't use your whole body to arm wrestle, but you really do. But I always wonder how you keep your arm in good shape because it can be pulled out of socket right-handed or left-handed.
Well, what happens is you're talking about the body. You can't use the body weight. A little bit you can. That's why they have weight classes. As long as you keep your hand in front of your chest all times, you're going to keep your arm safe. The second you let that hand go past the shoulder, you're in a broke arm position and you can break that arm. It takes 8 pounds of pressure to break it.
Wow. You always talk about arm wrestling as a social event. You'll see people maybe gather around, let's arm wrestle. But for you take it serious. It's a sport. And what is the protocol as far as practice before you play a tournament?
Well, what happens is we have a team here in York County, Newport News area, and we practice once a week. We work on our speed, we work on a weakness we have, and if we don't have the practice, we go to the gym and we do a lot of hand workouts, a lot of pull-ups and lat pull-downs and seated rows.
Mm-hmm. Talk about some of the arm wrestlers that have stood out in this area over the years.
The ones in this area over the years, you have Roy Ridgely. He was a heavyweight champion. You have my brother Steve Stanaway that stood out. Mm-hmm. Butch Hancock, he stood out. Bob Jones. Mm-hmm. This area here back in the 70s and 80s had about 20 national and world champions here.
Mm. How has it evolved over the years? Because have you had to use both arms over the years? Because I guess you're probably one-handed, you know, either right-handed or left-handed. What are you?
I'm right-handed.
But has your left-hander gotten strong as a result of this?
My left arm feels a whole lot better than my right.
Yeah, I bet.
But they do have the right hand and left hand competition, whichever one you want to go at. They do have weight classes, or if you want to do both, you can do both.
Mm-hmm. We're talking to Randy Stanaway, national sit-down champion. Talk about the whole stand-up, sit-down situation. What is that?
Okay, the stand-up arm wrestling is more popular today for the guys, the new guys, because they haven't done the sit-down because they stopped the sit-down back in '93. Stand-up is more leverage and speed. And when you go to the sit-down, it takes away all your speed and takes away all your leverage. It's pure arm. And the younger guys today are not used to that. So when they get on that sit-down table and they have a match, they're done. Mm-hmm. They don't have the endurance like the older guys do.
Right. Now, as far as competition, what goes on behind the scenes of a tournament? You've got a big event coming up in April.
What goes behind the scenes, well, we got to get everything organized. We had to get a location for it, which we do have one for April 27th at Body by D Gym. We ordered the awards for it. We get all the referees in line. We get all the scorekeepers in line. And as far as referees, we like to bring them out of state because we don't want nobody coming here and thinking we got all Virginia referees. We like to have different states represented so everybody have a fair deal. Mm-hmm. And we got scorekeepers coming out of state, so that's how we do it. Yeah,
it takes a lot to get involved in a match, and these people take it serious. Is there prize money involved?
On this level here, no, we don't have prize money, but some other tournaments, they do have some, but it's not a whole lot of money into the sport. There's no way anybody can make money off of it.
Yeah, you talk about people do it for the enjoyment and the fun. I mean, you've done it because you've enjoyed doing it over the years. Well, talk about the different ages, and do kids arm wrestle? Talk about men and women arm wrestling both.
Okay, there is some organization out there that does have kids. We don't. my contest I'm putting on in April will have a women's division. It will have open division. It will have masters 40 and over, 50 and over, and 60 and over. And last year, I had a guy that was 82, and I had one that was 70-some years old, and they had a 25-minute match.
Unbelievable. We're talking to Randy Stanaway, national sit-down champion arm wrestling as well. And a lot of this stuff is on YouTube where people can watch it,
Yes.
correct? I mean, you have to be in shape. I mean, we said it earlier, you're using your mind as well. It's a mental game for 25 minutes.
You have to be in shape for arm wrestling. Typically, a new person coming out to arm wrestling, when they go to practice, their arm is going to be hurting them for 6 months to 2 years until they condition that arm.
Do you have to ice it a lot?
A lot of the new guys will ice the arm because they're not used to the pain. It feels like a toothache in the arm.
Well, talk about the whole arm wrestling situation. Is it one-on-one singles? They ever have a double match, or how does that work?
What it is, it's a double elimination. You go in brackets. You win your first match, you go to the next round, and so forth. If you lose a match, you go to the losing bracket, and you fight your way through the losing bracket. And if you're the last loser and there's one winner, y'all go for the championship, but you have to beat the guy twice if he's undefeated.
You've been arm wrestling so long. There have been opponents over the years that you've dominated a lot, let's say back in the 70s and 80s, but as you've gotten older, they're dominating you. How does that work?
Well, I've run into I got a buddy, yes, that happened back then in the 80s and 90s. I dominated him pretty well, and for the last 3 or 4 years, he's dominated me pretty well.
It just takes a lot of stamina, it really does. And I guess a lot of it's repetition and practice.
Repetition and practice.
Yeah, so what advice would you give to a young arm wrestler as far as that sport? And how have you enjoyed the sustained desire to keep doing this?
I love it because I love one-on-one competition.
Okay.
For somebody wanting to get into the sport where somebody's teaching you the right way. You don't want to get into it, somebody's showing you some wrong stuff and you get hurt. There's a right way to do it where you will not hurt your arm and you will climb the ladder if you listen to them.
So the event in Richmond coming up this summer, that's going to be a lot of show you're involved in. What do you mean by the show?
The WAL is going to be a big show, big lights and all that stuff. There's going to be a glamour show light, but there's going to have some great competition. I'll give that to them. There's going to be some of the top arm wrestlers in the world there. Also, this show we're going to have in April, we're going to have some of the same ones, but it's just a different type. One's a stand-up, one's a sit-down. So
some of these guys that do it at the national level, they do it for prize money. There are sponsors involved, and there's big-time endorsements too.
Yes, the WAL will be a money contest. They will be winning some money there.
Is the popularity growing?
Yes.
Right. What are the downfalls of arm wrestling? Is it the whole health of the arm, I guess, right?
Right. Health of the arm is the downfall.
Right. All right. Well, leave us with one piece of advice you want to give to a youngster that wants to arm wrestle. You've done it for so many decades.
Well, if you want your arm wrestle, just know that your arm will be hurting for 6 months to 2 years, but once you get over that, you will have a lot of fun in it.
I admire you for doing that. That's you're using one part of your body, but your whole body is in sync with your arm.
Everything has to be in sync.
Absolutely. Mind and body both as well. All right, Randy Stanaway, national sit-down champion in arm wrestling. Thank you, and best of luck to you in your event coming up in April.
Well, thank you.
Very good. All right, want to enjoy all of our guests today. They are excellent. Chauncey Jenkins, Jaden Kesey from Menchville, John Velke, Staley Hampton from Warwick High School as well, wrestlers, and of course, Pryor basketball. And of course, we learned all about arm wrestling today from Randy Stanaway. I want to thank our great crew, and for Ray Price, happy spring. This has been our April edition of Sports Highlights. I'm Greg Bickaveras. We'll talk to you soon.